I want to do like a Three Sisters meal, and I would do probably a vegetarian one with a bean, and then another one with one of the sausages. Just to figure out what kind of like sausage mix, and that'd be amazing.
Ain't it great? Season 8. We're back with the No Dishes podcast. Once again, brought to you by our friends at Visit Bloomington. Check them out at visitbloomington.com. It's a great resource, even if you're just a local looking for something to do. Also, all of our other advertisers on this episode, they help make this whole thing possible, so please show them some love. Anyways, play that theme song.
Hey, say, honey, let's go out to eat. Relieve our culinary duties. With all these restaurants to sweep us off our feet, they're bound to turn us into foodies. No dishes, no dishes, no dishes. We'll have a bottle of wine, relax and have a good time. No dishes, no dishes.
You ever been walking into the store and in front of you, the burrito doesn't hold open the door for you, and you're like, man, I wish this burrito was just a little more considerate, you know?
Yeah.
Just me?
That's right.
All right, anyway, well, you don't have to worry about it with Considerate Burrito. We got owner and starter, all the things, Josh McClary, and also Joe Fischer with Fischer Farms. Fellas, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Josh, we had initially spoke, and you're like, hey, I want to talk about Considerate Burrito. I had seen it. You're out of the One World Kitchen Share. We've had Jay Burton on here. And you're just doing things that are really cool and different. And you're like, hey, I also, part of what we're doing is high quality ingredients.
Right.
Fischer Farms is a big part of that. You guys have advertised before a lot. You've come up so many times with restaurateurs we've had on. And it's really cool how you guys kind of built yourselves not on the backs of local Bloomington restaurants, but it was been a big part of your come up. But let's talk about the burritos that'll hold open the door for you. Mm-hmm. The unofficial tagline I'm giving it. Josh, tell us about Considerate Burrito and how it came to be.
Well, I'm a farmer, so I have a Consideration Farm out in Unionville, and I really have been trying to grow a meal. That's been my concept, growing a meal.
Right.
And so, I grow peppers and tomatoes. So my farm is starting to look like what I consider a burrito farm. I grow, I really need to get better onions, but I'm really good at growing garlic. And it's a salsa and burrito farm, by the way.
Okay, I love it.
So I was starting to, with my kids, we'd like cut stuff up one day, batch it the next day, and make burritos. And we would make tacos, and we just get ingredients ready and make all different stuff. So I honestly was like, I need to make a farm burrito, and I need to like make bulk food. And honestly, I want to be able to afford bulk ingredients so that I can buy great ingredients, and then I need to turn this into a business. So I was like, I want to feed my family, and then I need to like feed the community. And so I buy bulk ingredients. I buy the best bulk ingredients I can, and I'm trying to farm what I can. And so over time, my idea is like to farm more and more of it. I'm farming barley would be amazing. I put barley
one thing
in my
at a time.
burritos. Yeah. Barley's the next step, but I actually am a scyther. So I scythe grass and barley, so I eventually want to get some barley going so I can scythe it and test it. But yeah. So
that'd be sweet. So now you guys are relatively new to the scene.
Yeah.
How long ago was it that you said, okay, we are starting this, and you got the business rolling?
It was I'm trying to think when it was like July or August. So really, not very long at all. Just a little bit, at the end of the last year.
And what's the reception been like?
It's been fantastic. My thing has been to try to like sort of like build a partnership with the customer. If you buy a 3-pack of my Roxy, named after my daughter, but the Roxy chorizo burritos, then it's essentially $7 a piece. It's $20. If you buy, a 6-pack, then the price goes down to $6. It's $36. And then if you'll get a dozen, then it's $5. So I just keep dropping the price to try to get people to buy more. Then I can make more frozen stuff. And my concept is to keep turning the stuff from my farm. And I also work at Stranger Hill Organic Farm. They got great stuff. So just turning this stuff from the farm into meals.
Yeah.
And the burrito is kind of the sort of the fundamental, like it's better than the word meal. It's like burrito, right?
Yeah.
Because I do meals too. I did this really awesome. There was a huge butternut squash here at Stranger Hill. So we had tons of butternut squash. I had already purchased a bunch of red pepper, red bell pepper, and I had already diced them all up and froze them. So I put together this soup of butternut squash, red pepper, rosemary, with organic white bean and organic rice, a little bit of spices, and that was it. And so I did that. That was my first meal. It was considerate meal, and I sold that like crazy. I have that on reserve for myself, though. Like I stopped selling it so I could have enough for my lunches.
There you go. Yeah. You know what? Sometimes you have to take a little self-care into consideration.
No, it's like people have asked me, I'm like, I should, but I need to hold on to it. That was the idea. But, I sold it in 6-packs in pint jars. And it's fantastic. I got a customer that's like, just had a child, and she's, wants food in the freezer ready to go, and she wants good stuff. So that's kind of my concept there.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. I mean, my biggest thing, a large reason this podcast exists isn't just because I've worked in restaurants so long. It's because I eat out so much. That's what actually started this podcast, is because I don't have time to cook. I've cooked a lot more actually over the last year, which is ironic, but it's having services like this and, Lost Farm meal service and, it's just good, fresh ingredients. I want to pull one of these out real quick to give people, we don't have a banana for scale. We're going to work on that. It's not in our budget yet. This is a good, solid size burrito.
And that's our new smaller burrito.
Exactly. I was going to say, this is the smaller one. This is, you named after your daughter because it's like the child size.
Right. Okay, I'll say this is our chorizo burrito. And we have pulverized the onions and the garlic so the children can't see it. I had done an original one that didn't have it in there, but I was like, let's just get it in there.
Yeah.
And Roxy ate it this weekend, so it was fantastic. And this one is with my chorizo, because I had 2 little piggies that went to the butcher, but normally it's all his.
Okay.
I have enough for 2 rounds, and then.
Then back to the Fischer Farms product. Yeah.
The Roxy is what Josh has got in his car for me too. That's what I'm taking home, and that's what we'll be eating at our house tomorrow for breakfast.
Nice. Well, it's great you have the in-house testers already.
Yeah.
You get the approval, like, okay, we're good to go. You don't have to go. It's very fluid. So what was it when you're setting out to do this? You're like, I'm going to do Considerate Burrito. Did you do much vetting, or how did you end up on Fischer Farms as being a good partner for you?
Well, I've known Fischer Farms I've worked in restaurants. I worked at the Bird's Nest in Nashville.
Oh, nice.
And it's, like bacon always on the ready there, and it's like all Fischer Farms stuff. And I've seen Fischer Farms. And so I honestly, I have a very small scale pig thing going. I use pigs to sort of like destroy the ground, and I'll, eat them when I can.
Yeah.
But I don't have a big pig operation. So I need to buy ingredients from someone that's running a professional operation. So
you didn't have to really go searching. You already knew. You're like,
I knew I want. I want their stuff, and I just needed to find out what the price was, and then work that into my, my burrito. That's the way I see it. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, we've, so I've spoken with Joe before, and then Heather Tallman, who does their marketing, who's fantastic. I've known about, I feel like to me, Fischer Farms is massive because I've just known about it for so long, and I see it everywhere in Bloomington, whether it's been at Upland or Nick's or Uptown, like just everywhere I go, I see Fischer Farms. And then we've got the namesake here. And you guys are actually kind of a real small operation where it's only a few office workers and the farm, but you guys make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very much a small family business. It might feel that way because Bloomington was really, I think, the food scene that we really got started in. So, we started our farms near Jasper, Indiana. But then, at that time, it was my dad that was out, talking to folks. We were doing the farmers markets and those types of things. And, like Blooming Foods was one of our first big retail customers here in Bloomington. But then, my dad will tell the story about when he went and knocked on 17 restaurant doors in Bloomington. David Talent, who's now the executive chef at IU.
Yeah.
He was the one and only yes that he got that day.
Really?
And he jokes that, we might not still be doing this thing if David Talent hadn't said yes. But just because of him, kind of trusting us. And then we've since grown to, those other places you mentioned, Nick's and And really, Bloomington, we feel like that food scene has just been great. And so we've been happy to be selling for 20 plus years now in this market.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure that had to help when you go to other restaurants. You said, hey, it's good enough for restaurant talent. Like, no offense to your operation, but it should be good enough for you.
Well, and as you know, being in the restaurant world, there's a lot of it's a small community, right? Like folks move from restaurant to restaurant, and so we're happy to go with them when they move from restaurant to restaurant.
Yeah, and exactly. You have the chefs come over here, and a lot of people that learned under David Talent then got to go be an exec chef somewhere. They're like, oh, hey, I had this really great protein from Fischer Farms. Let's get them in here. We've talked about it. I had the opportunity to come down the farm many years ago with a group from Upland as the driver of a party bus. And
that's right.
We were driving the shuttle bus through the farm, which was why it was not designed, even though it's a Ford E350, it sounds like, oh, it's a shuttle bus. It's better to run people around up to the airport. But we're loaded in. They got a keg in there, and we're driving around. But it was such a beautiful farm and such a cool operation. And we sat down and did a steak dinner, and it was just like, it tasted just like, oh man, they just slaughtered this thing. Yeah. And then we actually went through the slaughterhouse too, which was wild. It's gnarly. It's not. I could never work and do that. But just to see it, and it gives you that much more respect for the people that do, the hands-on stuff for us to be able to enjoy the meat. I mean, just butchering pigs, I'm a thoroughbred, through and through meat eater. But man, when you think about the process, sometimes, I kind of don't want to think about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're very much an open door. We love having folks come for tours and just seeing where their food comes from. Like Josh is talking about, just really understanding all the ingredients that go into the meals that a lot of the restaurants in this area are serving.
Are you wanting to move better, feel better, and live better? Look no further than Move Bloomington, where their small group personal training programs are designed to improve strength, balance, and flexibility. With a welcoming environment, their expertly guided workouts can help you feel supported in the life and activities you love in and out of the gym. Whether you're new to exercise, a lifelong athlete, or anywhere in between, their dedication to personalized programming will deliver sessions that meet you where you are. Get started today using the code NODISHES to get 50% off their 3-session Kickstart program. Yeah, so what is it you're doing? Is it just the chorizo for you guys?
I also have the breakfast sausage.
Nice.
So I use this breakfast sausage and then the chorizo. And then, I have a meal that I do during the summer, and an Italian barley. I call it like an Italian barley bowl. It's supposed to be like a replacement for spaghetti. Okay. I just think we eat too much. I just don't think spaghetti is that great for us. But anyways, I would use this Italian sausage for that because so hopefully I can do that this summer.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
The meals get a little if we focus on the burritos, we just keep getting better and better and better. And I have a chef who's been helping me. He's fantastic. And it's just that we just do so well making a burrito.
What's his name?
You know what? He's very private.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, cool. Yeah. I just wanted to show him some love.
No, I would too.
If he's private, absolutely. I totally understand.
He's fantastic.
Well, that's great.
I always ask him, but he's private.
Yeah.
It's like we're just perfecting this, and the more we perfect it, the better we can make burritos at a good cost and for our customers. So I think my meals idea will be maybe 4 a year, based on the crops that come up. So I have one cool one that I'm really working on that would be, I would use one of his sausages, but I'm putting together a club, a Three Sisters club. Okay. So do you know this? I don't want to bore everybody, but do you know the Three Sisters, basically the concept in agriculture?
No.
It's just a Native American tradition, but it's just basically a mental technology, a way of growing. If you put a corn stalk and you plant a corn stalk, then you can plant a bean right next to it, and the pole bean will grow up the corn stalk. Now, I prefer to use sunflower because sunflower is much sturdier. So the beans will grow up the sunflower. And then if you plant a pumpkin, a squash, a melon on the ground, then they all three are like the sisters. They all three grow together. The beans fix nitrogen. And if you've seen pumpkins grow and melons, they just start to spread out and they keep the ground cool. So they keep the ground cool all around everything. And they all three work together, and native culture was huge. And that's kind of what I want to bring back. And so
that's great. That's probably gone away with mass production because the way you can't efficiently harvest that when it's all together like that, right?
Well, I think I can.
Well, no, I guess, but I mean on the large scales.
I'm pulling people together to see how efficient we can make it.
I love it.
And
That's
the
fantastic.
other thing about it is when the native people were doing this, they had the seed that they have, but now we have amazing seed technology. So I can plant anything that I want. I love Johnny seed, and it'll be exactly what that seed says it is, and it'll be like they have the best Waltham squash, and it could be an enormous pumpkin, but they also have these 2-foot python beans. So like instead of a little green bean, I've got a 2-foot long green bean.
Yeah.
So it's more efficient and, really good corn. So
That's great.
So when I get that, I want to do like a Three Sisters meal, and I would do probably a vegetarian one with a bean, and then another one with one of the sausages. Just I'd figure out what kind of like sausage mix, and that'd be amazing. And then I want to sell that in a pint jar. So that'd be the kind of thing I do in the fall.
That's great. Well, I know you said we already mentioned your in-house testers, but if you need another,
oh yeah,
I'm here for it.
I meant to bring this.
I'm very selfless. I just like to help out. How many acres are you working out of over in Union?
5 acres.
Wow, just making it happen.
Oh yeah,
That's
I
great.
mean, over even like I work at Stranger Hill. It's many. They have lots of acres, but if you think about like if we have 2 acres of food, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So they have more than that. But it's like it doesn't take that many acres to grow a lot of food.
I love to see that because you can really just be tucked in. I mean, Unionville's fairly spread out, but that's great that you can just do that so close to town and make this happen. So what's kind of the business model? You sell online, you can deliver whenever, or tell me how the operations side of Considerate Burrito.
I hope to get more of in the weeks to come and months to come, more of a standard delivery system set up, but more or less when somebody orders, I try to get it to them as fast as I can, but they know the couple of days. But I start to build relationships with people, so I have lots of repeat buyers, and I'm really trying to fill their freezer with something that is fantastic for them, delicious, to replace something that would have been less desirable from our grocery store.
Of course, yeah.
And so I want to build relationships with them, and I give them breaks for buying multiple things.
Yeah.
And so and then some people will get to the point where I have several people that buy several dozen a month. If you buy 3 dozen a month, let me know and I'll cut you a discount.
Oh, I like it. There, here, hold on. That's your time.
Oh yeah, 3 dozen a month. I'll cut you a discount.
Considerateburrito.com.
Yeah.
So just go to considerateburrito.com.
Yeah.
You mentioned farmers markets too. So are you setting up a market?
Well, I hope to get into the market. I applied in the market.
Gotcha.
It'll be something else because I'm definitely going to be working at Stranger Hills on Saturday at the market. I got 2 boys that are good burrito rollers and burrito salespeople.
Oh, nice.
So they're really good at selling garlic, by the way. Like we did the kids farmers market at the farmers market. It's once a year.
Okay, cool.
And I had garlic there. Like that, eventually I definitely want to get my farm going to Laura. Like I have Considerate garlic, as another thing going. I just love garlic. I love selling garlic too. It's just like everybody's happy.
Well, I feel like if you can just sell some garlic, you can sell a burrito.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's the thinking.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't know you did breakfast burritos as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it makes sense.
You
You said he uses breakfast sausage. And yeah, those these Roxy's, the smaller ones, are still a great size, especially you get a dozen. They're $5 a pop, which nowadays,
Yeah.
I mean, you're going up in quality for the same or less price than some mass manufactured bullshit.
Right.
So that's incredible. But you look at these big boys on the site, these things, I mean, that's going to fill you up.
Oh yeah.
Do you know the calorie stuff? Have you guys figured that out?
I haven't.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like that's a good 700-800 calorie burrito that's going to fill you up.
Oh yeah. That's a big burrito. It's actually, so it's a 10-inch tortilla.
Okay.
And then the Roxy's on an 8-inch tortilla. So
perfect. Well, I know, so you got your sons, helping out with the business. You plan to pass it along to them someday, maybe in similar fashion to another local business.
I have a daughter. So I'm just trying to get, and to be honest with you, I really do think that it's a great thing for other kids to get involved with. Hopefully and I've talked to the people at One World about that idea too. And it's just, that's something that I want to explore once I get going, is giving kids jobs.
Yeah.
My kids, they're 14. And
That's perfect.
My one son works at the Bird's Nest on the weekends doing dishes, and he loves it. It's changed him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then my other son, they both have helped me. But so in the future, I want to get them and maybe, offer a little program to give jobs to kids.
That'd be really
because
cool.
they can roll burritos. They can't touch the fire, they can't touch the heat, but we have a lot going on that's, cold prep and everything else.
Yeah, well, and I had my first restaurant job at 15.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it today because I was on the south side. We were talking about dental appointments and went to, there's an MCL cafeteria on the south side. And that was my first job, but in Castleton. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. I was walking, I was like, man, I've been working for 20 years now. I just turned 35. So I'm like, man, that 2 decades of restaurant food service. But I think working from a young age, because I think legally in Indiana it's 14. You can learn so much and just you get an idea of a little bit of how the world operates.
Yeah.
Once you get a job and you're, at Chick-fil-A or wherever hires a younger employees, but for you to do it in family, that's great. And yeah, forget the boys. Roxy's running this thing.
Yeah.
She's already got the name on there.
That's right. Well, and like my parents used to always remind me is like family business and like ag, like those labor laws didn't really apply. So I was like,
Yeah.
10 years old. Yeah. Automatic gate opener. That was our job for a while. My dad would pretend to hit the button and we'd have to go and open up the gates. But yeah, we used to do it where we'd get, you got paid half your age was your hourly rate.
Oh, nice.
So it was a big deal on your birthday. You got a 50-cent raise. Pretty exciting.
I love that.
And he also made it the speed limit for the four-wheelers on the farm. So when you were, 15 years old, you could go 15 miles an hour.
That's smart.
And so anyway, it was a big deal birthday time.
50 cents and a mile an hour more.
That's right.
Let's go. You're like, I'm going to go rip around with these 2 quarters.
Exactly.
Coming to you this summer, it's the Smithville Communications Summer Concert Series in Ellettsville. Brought to you by B97 and Hoosier Country 105.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Enjoy live music every Saturday from May 24th through July 26th. That's 10 weeks of music every Saturday evening from 6:30 to 8. Located at the Marcy Jane Lewis Park. And did I mention it's free? Dance the night away with the Smithville Communications Summer Concert Series in Ellettsville.
We beat me to it. Yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit about growing up with the farm and kind of what your role has evolved into how it is now.
Yeah, for sure. So the farm's been in the family for 6 generations now. And my dad, worked kind of worked in the software world for a little while before coming back to the family business. And that was around the year 2000. And at that point, we were doing kind of the conventional farming deal. And my dad came back and he's like, we really want to raise top quality beef and we want to do it naturally. And at that point, our idea was, all right, we're going to do this. And somebody out there is going to want to buy our cows because they're raised that way and pay us a premium for that. And at that time, we found that there wasn't necessarily anybody that cared about that as much as we did.
Yeah, early 2000s was a totally different ballgame than nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. And when I say no one, I'm talking kind of the big packers because for folks that maybe don't know, the beef market in particular is controlled by primarily 4 big players that control over 80% of the market. And so like, well, if our family cares about clean meat and, top quality, surely others do too. And so that's when we decided to not sell our cows as, live cattle, but actually to start selling them direct. And so we started at the farmers markets, like I mentioned earlier. So, mom and dad would load us in the car, load up the coolers, and we'd sell that way. And that was a really good way for us to learn kind of what customers wanted, what they cared about. But then quickly figured out that we wanted to really get into more of the wholesale realm. We started, talking to chefs like David Talent, and he was that kind of we thought was more of a model that we wanted to get into just from a growth and a volume standpoint. And so knocking on doors and doing that whole thing, delivering and what started in our sedan, then in our Suburban. Then we got a pickup truck with the reefer unit on the back, and dad would throw us in the passenger seat, and we'd load up and do the route.
You had to stay in the reefer part. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, kind of evolved, and then I think there was an article in the Indianapolis Star of my dad, delivering, and that was when Marcus Agresta at Piazza Produce called up my dad and was like, "Hey, we got trucks that are crisscrossing the state every day. You don't need to be doing those 14-hour round trips."
Yeah.
And so that's when our kind of distribution kind of grew a little bit in that sense. But got on a little tangent there, but to circle back to kind of my role and, so start off doing whatever mom and dad told me.
Automatic gate opener, yeah.
Exactly. So helping out on the farm side of things. I went off to school, worked. My parents had a rule that I had to go work for somebody else for a while.
That's great.
And which I'm very appreciative of. I learned a lot in that role. Healthcare management consulting, completely different realm.
A little bit.
Yep. But got tired of the travel. Tired of being away from the wife. So was excited to come back and join the family business. And my role since coming back almost 6 years ago now has been on the sales and distributor relationship side of things. So when I'm talking to the Chocolate Mousse about their Coney sauce, and when I'm talking to Josh about sausage, that's my role now. Where it's really enjoyable too. I was at a restaurant earlier today in Columbus where we were just playing with different things. I brought in 5 different cuts. And we were just throwing them, and like we did bone marrow, then we did a ribeye, then we did a pork chop. And
nice, yeah.
Just trying to see what's going to go on the next menu, and it was a lot of fun. So that's kind of my day to day now, I guess. That's
super cool, just to be able to do exactly what you just described. And from our perspective, I mean, you can hire someone that can do a great job, but when you have like your last name's Fischer, you know what I mean? Like, I think that goes a long way when you're a family farm to have one of the namesakes out there, like talking about the product, showing that you care about the customer, about the product, the quality, But yeah, so it's been a good, successful 6 years, it seems like. And obviously it's culminated in this right here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's right.
I'm just kidding. We're not that big.
That's how we know we made it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're on.
It's like I can finally just stop now.
Yep.
Josh, you mentioned working at Bird's Nest, your son working there. Can you tell us a little bit about your background from where you grew up and working your way to where you are now?
Wow. Well, I did. My family has been on the farm I'm the 8th generation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My great-grandfather's great-grandfather is the one that came up from Tennessee. So my great-grandfather was a farmer and a painter. And, by the time he was born in 1895, so him and his brothers were farmers. But then after that, my grandpa grew up as a farmer, but then he wasn't. So I'm sort of like bringing back the farming idea to the family, which is kind of weird because I'm the only one that has that idea. But anyways, I've been doing that for about 6 years. And before that, I was in the publishing industry. So college textbooks, I spent a long time doing that. And as you can imagine, that was sort of collapsing around me all the time. And so I went and I lived in Detroit, and I started a drinking vinegar business there with my now ex-wife. But we were on Shark Tank.
Oh, no way.
So yeah, that was awesome. But drinking vinegars, it was kind of a cool idea. It was made out of apple cider vinegar, and we preserved flavors. So we were in Michigan. We had like Michigan beet carrot, Michigan apple pie, lots of cool things like that. But people could mix them in sparkling water to make a soda, or they were very popular as a drink mixer, cocktail mixer. So we had fun with that. I learned a lot. That was like a total failure for me. And I learned a lot about like how distributors can ruin you. So, you know what I mean? Like I learned a lot about like food brokering and all that kind of stuff. Things I want to stay away from, to be honest with you. I learned a lot. So you can see like I've been jaded by, and I'm going to end up, being in stores and stuff, but I wanted to have a direct relationship with my customers if I could. That's why I'm delivering,
Well, and we fought forever to get into Kroger with Chocolate Mousse, and then we got in there, and then we're like, this is stupid. We did it for like a year, and then we got out, and we're like, this isn't what we want to do.
I have like a horror story for Kroger. I don't even want to. So yeah, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's like you try to strive and work so hard to get there, and then you get there, and you're like, man, this isn't what we want. This isn't they will rake you through the coals to get obvious. So the margins are so thin, and then you're like, what are we doing? Let's just go sell it direct. There's a lot in big business. There's a lot of fleecing of the suppliers. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is literally what's going on. So you're just sort of trying not to get fleeced by somebody all the time. If I'm talking, in the big world, I don't think he's having that relationship with Piazza at all. But I'm saying that like in the big distributor trying to get into Kroger, you got a food broker over here. The shelf space is because we weren't even we got into Kroguchi on the east side, and we got a really nice end cap, but it wasn't next to the other ice creams.
Yeah.
And so if you're going like, oh, I want to shop for ice cream, you don't even see us.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, you got food brokers, you got to grease the wheels. And it's just shelf space is at a premium. You know, at least like with what you guys would do with Piazza, you're like, hey, we got to bump up a little bit. Piazza just bumps up the pricing to what it needs to be and everything's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what we've seen, and we work with Piazza, US Foods, What Chefs Want are kind of our main three in the food service side of things, is generally they are efficient at getting the product to the end customer.
Yeah.
More so than if we were to, and I'm kind of talking like, because we're selling, statewide and to surrounding states. When we were first starting out, it made sense for us to do kind of that local delivery. But when they've got, bigger warehouses and trucks that they can put more than just Fischer Farms on, if they got lettuce and tomatoes and Fischer Farms products all going to that same customer, they can be efficient. And so what it actually ends up being is it actually ends up being a little more cost effective to our end customer to have it distributed that way. So like Josh's sausage, we're throwing that on a Piazza truck. It's going back to Indianapolis and it's going to One World, the next day. So it's incredibly short lead time to Josh, where he's getting fresh product, but we don't have to run a separate truck.
Yeah, and it's
to go drop it off at Josh's.
It's ultimately a cheaper price than if you had to deliver it on your own.
Exactly.
The No Dishes podcast is brought to you by visitbloomington.com. VisitBloomington.com is the best resource for restaurant and culinary information, special events, fun activities, places to stay, and more in our area. We share a similar mission here on the No Dishes podcast of highlighting local businesses and the people who make our community unique. We can't thank them enough for hopping on board. Check them out at visitbloomington.com to easily plan your next meal, visit, or night out on the town. Is this so someone wants to go find your old episode there? So just, Google search McClary Brothers, McClary Bros, Shark Tank. Garrett pulled it up super quick.
There it is. That's my ex-wife right here.
Oh, wow.
What, I like the old stash look there.
That's some dude that we hired.
Oh, I thought it's so far away.
Yeah.
I was like, man, you really look a lot
But
different.
I thought the same thing. Like, man, the facial hair.
I thought it was him.
But that label, isn't that funny? People have said that. But no.
Yeah. Well, now, once he makes the full screen, it's a little like, okay.
It's just the whole episode. If you go to the beginning, I'm in the very beginning.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll see if he can find it. It might be on a streaming service.
No,
Yeah.
Not. Like, how they come to your house and some of the episodes and they're like, oh, let's get into the details of their life. That's what we got they call it a home package.
Yeah, they did that for you guys.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Well, that
So
means
it's
they really
exciting.
like the story. Yeah, they'll do the offsite and.
Probably part of it. It was fantastic. That's part of it, them talking to her before the show. And
Yeah,
that was
you see
crazy.
that on like singing competitions too. You can tell when they already know someone's going to make it because they flew a camera crew to their hometown.
Oh, right.
And you're like, wait, I already know they're going to get through now. They just did this whole backstory out in Arkansas,
Yeah.
but we didn't get a deal, but we got on. And Shark
Well,
Tank,
yeah, it's not even about getting a deal. It's about getting the.
it's about getting on the show.
And for them to just see, what kind of sales did you see?
They'll do. I think the numbers are like the people that actually come out there to record. Half of them don't air.
Oh,
So
wow.
you literally spend your money. Like I had to pay for that barrel to get out there. You know what I mean? I had to pay for all of our setup, and they put her up in a hotel. So yeah, you gotta you're on the line until you get on. But we were like, oh my god! When she told me that she didn't get a deal and she started crying at the end, I was like, yay! I was like, that's great TV.
Yeah,
I was
we're
like,
going to get on.
I was like, if you're crying, and she said that they were arguing and stuff, I was like, oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
They
they're
were
not going to
arguing.
cut us. Yeah.
So it was, season 7, episode 1, home package. It couldn't have been better.
Oh, you were a season premiere. That was
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
It must have been
yeah.
very good TV.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
The only thing that was weird about the whole thing was Ashton Kutcher was the special guest, and people are just weird about him. They either hate that dude or they kind of like him. So there was a little bit of I feel like the numbers were a little bit off. There was supposed to be 10 million viewers, and there was 7 million or something.
Really, huh?
Something weird.
He
like
was
that.
one, Ashton was a media darling for such a long time because he was very vocal and spoke to Congress about sex trafficking and really made that his passion project. But then when his That 70s Show co-star Danny Masterson got accused of some very awful things,
Right.
he backed him.
Oh.
And so people were just like, well, dude, you are so fake. And when it's someone anyway, that's for another podcast, I guess. But that's kind of, I think, a big part of why people either love him or hate him now. I don't know about back then. But so did you guys see just sales go crazy after the episode aired?
It was nuts.
Is that company still existing with anyone? No,
we eventually got we got out of it and it went out of business.
Yeah,
just so much, just shenanigans with distribution, and of course, like he said, they're good at getting it out there, and then you're trying to sell drinking vinegar all over the place,
right?
You know, so it gets hard to like get new customers, get people like I did so much sampling to explain. That's another thing why I'm doing burritos. It's fundamental.
You don't have to educate
I don't have to tell
people on
what a burrito
is.
Like that was hard. Every conversation starting from what's a drinking vinegar? Oh, so I learned a lot doing that. But
figure out how to get efficient brand, messaging across. I mean, what you learned doing farmers markets early on is you learned quick, efficient messaging about what your brand is, but you got to hire a whole team to go around to every cocktail bar in town to sell hopefully enough.
It was something else. But yeah, after you get on that Shark Tank, it's crazy. I think I can't remember the numbers. We definitely had like $100,000 in sales within the first some people have like millions.
Yeah.
So like we were actually low for $100,000, but it's like you just had $100,000 in sales in like a few days.
That's wild.
And then what was kind of cool is I was home a few weeks later, and I'm just sitting there looking at the website, and all of a sudden, just $5,000 in sales just flashes in from like nothing, and it's just like $5,000.
A rerun or
it was a rerun, but it was like, oh my God. Like that's how many people are just pulling the trigger on Shark Tank that you can just watch the numbers come in like that.
I mean, I can see myself doing it. I'm just sitting there like, oh, I want to try that out. And you go Google it, you buy, you spend $30, but all that adds up really quick,
It'd be worth just trying to get on Shark Tank all the time, trying to start business.
Garrett, do you think we could just sell them on our proprietary idea of a food podcast?
Love it.
Yeah.
Hello, sharks. I can already see Mr. Wonderful right now. He's like, what is this?
The guy,
this isn't a business.
The dude.
But hey, you get on screen, that's all that matters, right?
No, exactly. Yeah. And then someone can go watch an episode. They can't order anything.
Get some merch out there or something.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we need to up our merch game for sure. All right, Josh. So you're in Detroit. You're going on Shark Tank. Keep rolling.
So we did that. It was getting challenging, and essentially my stepfather passed away. My mom's out here on the farm. That business isn't going well. And my grandfather had passed away. And so his house was where I live now. My mom had rented it, and renters were coming due. And I was just like, let's just get him out and I'll move back down and get this farm thing going that I want to do.
That's great.
And so my mom had rented it out to some people who really destroyed the house. So I'm in the middle of that still 6 years later.
Wow.
You know how it is. It's like, oh man. So I moved in, it was disastrous. I made it livable while I'm trying to build the farm. And so that's where I am now. And I just tried to learn how to farm. I use the word fundamental a lot, but it's like, I want to remove the things between me and the biosphere that aren't necessarily just like a real, like gasoline, technology, and money kind of, in my opinion, can get in the way of people working together. Like everything, it goes through those three things. So I've just been sort of like figuring, using a scythe and not using gas and using gravity to move water. And I use geese to move fertilizer because geese poop in water, and then that water runs right into my tomatoes. And goose poop is immediately ready to go. The nitrogen level is immediately you can grow in it. It's amazing. Whereas chicken poop, you have to compost it. So I've just been doing things like that, figuring out. And it's like geese go and they drink water, they eat grass most of the year, and they poop. It's an extremely regenerative cycle. The sunshine is being turned into grass, and then if it rains, you got yourself goose poop and goose eggs. And so it's way more efficient than chickens, who they kind of require grain to really give you the good eggs. And pigs will just eat anything. And if you need the ground tilled, you bring the pigs in. I use pigs to That's another thing I do. I don't want to bore the hell out of you guys, but
No, this is honestly
this
so
huge,
fascinating to me.
the huge thing that I do, I'm just telling you, it's like the most critical thing. I literally have this sort of like Johnny Appleseed concept in my head that I think that we need to plant white clover all over the planet. I think that there's too much grass growing, which requires all of us to mow it. Whereas white clover, you can sort of, first of all, I scythe it like nothing. It just scythes like butter. There's no blade to cut. So it just, whereas grass is harder to cut. It takes more energy any way you look at it. So I'm looking for ways to use less energy. If I put white clover all over my farm, then here's another thing I'm doing. I harvest cardboard and I get it from Pizza Express.
Oh, nice.
So all the bags of flour from Pizza Express I can get my hands on while I'm there, I get them. So I've got like hundreds and hundreds of Pizza Express flour bags. And I use those. Like if you have white clover growing everywhere and then you put a bag down and then you grow through it, then there's no opportunity for the weed to invade the space of your plant.
Interesting.
Because the white clover is doing the same thing I told you about. It's fixing nitrogen, and white clover will work with everything. Now, I've done this where I grew white clover right up against my peppers, and it tends to crowd the pepper. So the pepper kind of is trying to grow too tall to like get around the canopy of the, but if I were to cut the white clover, I think that would have been smarter, and I'll do more of that. But all you got to do is lay down sort of like a runway of cardboard and then put some hay over the top of it. Or to be honest with you, as you cut the white clover, you can drop that over the top of it. And I've done that with garlic to where the key is picking weeds. No one wants to pick weeds.
Yeah. How can we minimize the weed?
That would
picking?
ruin my Three Sisters club, is if everybody has to pick weeds. That's what I found. I mean, I've been trying to do this for a while, but as soon as you got to call someone to help you pick weeds, they can't do it. They can't remember that what's coming is food. So I had to figure out the weed thing. And so that's kind of what I do, the white clover, paper. And then I've learned to like really grow more and more things that can replace the weeds. So the weeds literally just don't have a chance to grow. So there's basil and cilantro that will kind of grow like a weed if you get them going. And well, not exactly like a weed, but they grow. They don't really inhibit peppers that much and things like that, tomatoes, but they smell horrible to bugs. So bugs hate cilantro, bugs hate basil. So I use them to like push out the bugs. And another little thing like that I learned to do is this was the coolest thing that I read about that ever worked. Tomatoes kind of look like potatoes. And bugs are all over potato. It is really hard to keep the bugs away from the potatoes. So I grow potatoes in a 5-gallon bucket and then just sort of hide them out in the tomatoes. And it helped like quite a bit.
Wow.
Like, I got the potato bugs off of them and then like hit them there. And it's like the potato bugs don't go looking inside the tomatoes for the potatoes.
Yeah. They know better or don't. I guess.
They don't understand.
Yeah.
Like they aren't going to go looking there.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like, and I'm talking about big tomato plants that were just growing, and I just shoved them like in there and made sure they still have some. And I had read about that, and I was like, dude, that worked like a charm.
Yeah.
Because you haven't seen, I would love to put potatoes in my burritos. So that's another thing that I want to grow. But the things that are troubling are like potatoes are hard. And that's pretty much, what I've had a little bit of trouble with, because I just don't know anything about spraying or anything like that. I just have to, I just never learned any.
Well, I mean, you're just figuring it out. I could listen to you talk about this shit. I think it's so cool. Like, I don't farm or garden, but I think it's so cool because, again, it's everything you're doing. It's just the ingenuity and figuring it out. Whereas, like, there's much easier solutions that are going to result in a less quality product. I mean, you could go spray or do this or that, or what a lot of large farms I'd imagine do, but you're doing it the right way. And you're just like, you're doing trial and error, which I think is fun. Like you've got to like be like, oh, this didn't quite work, but let's try this. And now you've got this harmonious farm where everything's kind of working together in this perfect synergy. Better business, better community. For over a century, the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce has been a cornerstone of business growth and community development. They are dedicated to helping local businesses thrive. Their business is all about your business. Join the Chamber today. Call 812-336-6381 or visit chamberbloomington.org to learn more. I don't know. It's like you think like I could listen whenever I have my first burrito. I'm going to play this back and listen to you talking about your farming techniques. Every bite I take, I'm going to appreciate it like that much more. You know,
I appreciate it.
So that's really, I think, just a really fun part about regenerative agriculture in general is just like how do we avoid fertilizers and pesticides and things like that using like natural, tricks and tips that a lot of times it's my dad literally on Facebook groups with other people that have tried different things.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe it sounds like you reading books and that kind of stuff too, but a lot of times it's just, this is what's working in our area. Maybe it doesn't work, but I mean, we've tried stuff that has come from the West Coast and Europe and literally like Africa, different people just trying different things. All after that same mission that Josh was talking about, like, how do we get these plants to work together?
Yeah.
We did like a 9-way mix for the first time this year. And we worked with this guy out of Missouri to help develop this mix. And it's for our cattle pastures. And it's 9 different things. Some of them are fixing nitrogen. Some of them are supplying this, and they're, doing it at different times. So we have like sunflowers and buckwheat and sun hemp and cowpeas and this literally 9 different things that end up being this super lush forage that our cows can eat all summer long. And it didn't require any fertilizer. And after our cows were done, grazing, and we actually had some left over that we were able to chop for silage, throw it in the bunks, and that's what they're eating now when there's not much grass on the ground. We still had enough nitrogen fixated in the ground that when we came back and planted our ryegrass, it didn't require any fertilizer to grow either. And so it's kind of like, we've been spending money on fertilizer for how many years?
Yeah.
And so it requires a little bit more work and a little more time to like think it through, but it actually ends up having cost savings while having the environmental effects. So it's been really fun for us to play with those things too.
Yeah, it's a win-win. That's awesome. Well, and then you just throw in the fact that you're taking these bags from Pizza X. It's just like it's just local business helping local business do things the right way. It's the epitome of what this podcast is about, what Bloomington's about. And so I love to hear more stories about it. And just because what were they doing with those bags beforehand? I mean,
well, I think some people might use them. I asked Jeff, he's like, of course you can have them.
Yeah.
But, I think he said he knows what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like the first time he'd heard that. And so I take them. They recycle all their cardboard. They have a recycling setup. But yeah, I show up, and I can't imagine how much flour is in my van. I need to figure that out. But I just do. I was like, I come out of there and there's flour everywhere.
Yeah, you're just gonna get pulled over. It's flour. I swear.
I know. It's insane.
Joe, you mentioned starting 6 years ago, and that made me think, which is dangerous. But so did you start right before the pandemic hit? And how did that, again, because when we first started this podcast, it was in the middle of the pandemic and it's all we talked about. So I try not to talk about it too much anymore because people are kind of burnt out about it. But I'm truly fascinated for what you guys do and restaurants really slowing down, how that affected you guys.
Yeah, no, it definitely affected us. I came back to the family business about a year before. It was end of May, and call it St. Patrick's Day-ish of the following years when kind of COVID happened. And to your point, a lot of our restaurant customers kind of had to shut their doors or really slowed down, take out. So our sales did take a hit that year for sure. We did our best, and I hate to use the word pivot because it's kind of an overused word. But at that point, we did launch our direct-to-consumer website. So St. Patrick's Day weekend, I was at home trying to figure out how to build a website, that would allow customers, because at that point we also saw kind of the supply chain challenges associated with the food world. Mm-hmm. People, especially here in Indiana, you drive by a lot of farms, you assume that your food is coming from nearby. In reality, it's probably traveling pretty far. I think I saw a stat that it was the average processed food travels 1,300 miles before it's eaten, and the average, quote unquote, fresh food travels 1,500 miles.
That's crazy.
And so I think the pandemic kind of opened people's eyes a little bit too. Where's my food coming from? And hey, there's a farmer, Josh has got pigs and produce. Maybe I can go buy some stuff from him. And so some of our direct-to-consumer sales really took off during that time period, as well as just general retail stores. So like Blooming Foods, for example. They were selling a lot more because people still had to eat.
Right.
So they couldn't go out to eat, but they were cooking at home. And so Blooming Foods and others kind of picked up some of that slack.
Yeah,
there.
help balance it out. So you were already by, a week or two in, saw the writing on the wall and we're like, we need to do direct to consumer.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I think that's impressive. I mean, we were a month in still like, what is going on? Like we just got hit in the face, but for you to quickly be like, hey, this is about to change the game. We're not just going to sit here and wait it out. We've got to do something different. I think that's really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. We had meat hanging in the cooler at our processor and like, this meat's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And really try not to freeze it, but it's got to go. And so that was the solution we went with.
So can you tell me, one of the things that fascinates me is just the animals you raise, what the process is like, just kind of the operations of the farm, like what all you're raising and the process of from calf to my plate.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to give you the at least somewhat abbreviated version, but feel free to jump in with questions as I go through this. So our farm is near Jasper. On our farm, we got mama cows that are having babies, and what we like to do is we like to have them out on pasture, with their mamas grazing, and we wean at a minimum of 6 months, I guess a minimum would be the right word choice there. So we don't want to wean those calves before they turn 6 months old. But at that point, they're kind of too big for mama's milkshake. They're ready to go, out on their own. And so at that point, we wean them, but we keep them out on pasture. And they're out on pasture, but they also get a supplemental diet of, it's usually a mixture of like ryegrass silage, corn silage, that 9-way mix that I was talking about. And the idea there is we want those cows to be gaining at least 1.75 pounds per day their entire life.
Wow.
And the reason for that is for the marbling in the meat. So when we started out, we learned from customers, but then also just for our own taste buds, we wanted to do natural meat. We wanted to do local. We wanted to do sustainable. But at the end of the day, quality is what a lot of people really care about. Kind of like, what's the point of all the rest if it doesn't taste good?
Right. Yeah.
And so we found over years of trial and error, because we do have that quick feedback loop of we can see what that meat looks like and actually tie it back to that calf and know kind of what are those levers we can change on the farm side of things. So jumping a little bit ahead, but that calf's out, growing out on pasture. For the last couple of months, we bring it into finishing barns and kind of make sure it's ready to go. It's usually my dad or one other guy on the farm side, Adam, that's picking them out to go in every week. But what that does is that just gives us a lot of touch points to know that our cows are ready to be slaughtered at that point. They go 3 miles down the road to our butcher facility, and we have a great partnership with Sander Processing. So shout out Sander Processing.
Yeah.
They are fantastic to work with. Another small family business that we've really grown up with through our time selling direct. They had just built a facility shortly before we started selling direct. We grew up with them and then have actually since outgrown that one, and we built a new facility with them about 5 years ago. Oh, wow. And we drop off our animals. They do kind of the slaughter and cutting, and then we're doing the order fulfillment in a building that is literally connected. So the fire marshal is like, kind of like, how does this work? Like, no, don't worry about it. We've been partners with them for years. It's going to be great. But it's just the most efficient way for us to, for them to continue doing what they do best, for us to continue what we do best. But then, ultimately that meat's cut and it's out the door shortly thereafter.
Well, I think you kind of answered my question. Like, why wouldn't you not just train your own people, do it yourselves? But again, like you said, they do it best. So like, why would you even waste the time if you have this long-standing relationship? Yeah,
exactly. They do a great job. And, our beef is dry aged for 2 weeks before it's cut and slaughtered, and it's all cut to order. That's our big thing, is we want to really cut down that lead time, but also make it fresh, because that's what makes us efficient. If we're not cutting 12-ounce ribeyes, putting them in a box and putting them on the shelf, and then you're like, hey, I want 14-ounce ribeyes for supper, like, that's a problem. Yeah. We already cut them as 12-ounce, so we really want to do it made to order. And because of our distributor relationships, we're able to get that order, get it cut usually that same day, and then on a truck that next day, delivered to the customer the day after.
Wow. The Bloomington Town Planner is a community calendar owned and published by local residents John and Sharon Martin. Mailed out to Bloomington homes in December of each year, it features school schedules and community events. And don't forget the coupons at the bottom of the calendar. They'll save you money and help you decide on the next restaurant or retailer to check out here in the Bloomington area. Town Planner also has an online calendar which can be found at townplanner.com. Make sure to sign up for their weekly e-newsletter so you can stay on top of all the fun events going on around town.
So really short lead time. And then like on the pork side of things, it's raised by our neighbors, the Gooksale family. Another great family.
Super cool. I love it. Yeah.
And we just kind of started working with them, and they were, they really like being pork farmers. They didn't necessarily want to get into the direct sales side of things. And so that's when we started working with them. And we actually talked with Blooming Foods, and we're like, should we label it Gooksale Farms? And they said, stick with Fischer Farms.
Yeah.
And put it all under the same label. And we've really taken that approach to offering other local products to our customers via kind of the pipes that we've built. And so in addition to the beef and the pork, we also sell Amish eggs, and which the egg market right now is.
Yeah, you're like, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I like the word pipes though.
Yeah.
See, that's what we need to build local pipes.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what he's doing. So I'm building a pipe to him, because the thing that terrifies me is I see people be like, stop eating meat and save the world. And it's like, stop eating industrial garbage.
Right. Yeah, that's
You know
not
what I
the
mean?
problem.
It's
Isn't local farmers?
No,
It's
like
these-
we need more of this kind of thing. You know
well, how
what I
much
mean?
gas it takes to go that 1,300 miles, or just move things around. If everything stays localized, it doesn't have nearly the same effect.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
And, yeah, and we say is a lot of small producers, the challenge, and we were very much in this boat, is the distribution element can be really cost prohibitive at times for kind of growing to scale. And so if we can be a hub for, we had a group, Beautiful Edibles, shout out to them in Newburgh. They dropped off some mushrooms, and they're going to a restaurant, actually a retail store in Cincinnati tomorrow.
Oh,
and
nice.
so it's a way to kind of expand that that network for them at relatively low cost. And our thing is let's just keep adding local producers to this. We want to grow the local food scene so that we don't see them as competitors. As obviously
Well,
different
they're
products line.
complementary, yeah.
Exactly. We're trying to build that food scene so that people are more comfortable with local and have more accessibility to local.
Yeah, and you've already blazed that trail. There's no need for each of them individually to have to go figure that out when you've already done it, and you're willing to help them, which is fantastic.
And chefs want to be able to order from one place. They want to send one invoice and or one purchase order, and it all comes
Right?
on
Yeah.
delivery.
The less providers, the better.
Yeah. I know you know that better than I do.
Yeah. Fortunately, Aaron Biggs gets to handle most of it, which is nice. But I've seen it over the years. Yeah, the less is more. All right, fellas, we got just a little bit of time left. The last thing we always do on here is talk about local restaurants we like to eat out at, places that we're big fans of. Josh, you got any local favorites for yourself? I know you're making a lot of what you eat, so you're allowed to not have as many as we might.
Well, I live on State Road 45, and it's like I go right by Hive every day.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I almost stop in there every day, and it's like, it's a great little breakfast spot.
Oh,
great little my kids like the smash burger.
It's the best.
So yeah,
It's so good.
so and I wish I had time to go out more.
I can tell you're very busy from what you've described to us already.
I'm just trying to think of anything else that I've had. It's
Well,
the saddest thing.
I will say Hive has my favorite pancake. I picked it up on the way to our Brown County store once. Just carry out. And as soon as I got in my car, just the smell of it. It was, if not the best tasting, it's the best smelling pancake I've ever had. I don't know if it's malt or what, but it just has this really strong flavor. And then they got the egg and muffin.
Yeah.
Where it's just it's like $4.
right. I hit that all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I figured if you're hitting in
Get
there
some
for
bacon,
breakfast,
put on it for $2 more bucks.
let's go.
So
Yeah.
I do a lot of that. I wish I could give you a really cool restaurant. I'll tell you the last place. What's that sushi place right there? That's
Sushi bar?
Sushi Bar.
Yeah.
That place I went there. That's probably the last thing I did, as an adult going out to eat for a while. But that was fantastic. Because I'm always wondering how that works with sushi. I'm like, I was there like it was dead the time I picked to go.
Uh-huh.
But the premium sushi is there waiting for me. I never have been able to understand the
Yeah, they
fresh
make it
sushi.
happen. You know,
I know
sushi,
they do. Don't they?
Sushi Bar is one that's been open for a very long time.
Yeah.
People have always raved about
it's
it.
so good.
And I did not try it for the first time until like 6 months ago. But it was excellent. It was really good. And I went during a busy lunchtime. But yeah, so you're not quite as worried about the freshness. But you go into a dead sushi spot, and yeah, it's hard to not cross your mind like, but they're.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, you're fine. Go.
I say, and the other thing I've been really wanting to do is hit like an Indian buffet, or
Yeah.
just, and so that's kind of been. I really love Indian food.
Have you ever done the Taste of India buffet?
You know what? I think that's the one I went to, and it was like I was there like it was closed. Like, I didn't go
man.
at the right time.
Yeah.
But I need to do that.
It's great. It's like $14.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's I'll go over and do a to-go box. Pick a little veggie pakora, a little fish pakora, butter chicken, some.
That's on my to-do list for sure.
Cool. Well, hit me up. Let's grab lunch.
All right.
It's right around the corner from the Moose. I go over there all the time.
I will.
Nice.
Joe, how about you, man? I know you got a lot you got to throw love out to, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the scary part too, is like, I don't want to leave anybody
I
out.
know, yeah.
But maybe a good place to start then is Nick's English Hut. Quick story. I'll try to keep it short, but
Yeah,
they
you're
were, so I mentioned my dad did the, 17 knocks, the one yes. So there was another eventual yes. It just wasn't yes that day. And that was Rags at Nick's English Hut. And I still remember this. I was with my dad, and I think we were fixing fence or building fence, and he gets a call from Rags, and he says, "Hey, I remember you stopping by. You had that like meat, place I was getting it from just closed down. Any chance you could get me some burger for tomorrow?" And my dad was like, "Yes, whatever, whatever we got to do.
We got our foot in the door."
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And so he's like, "Yes, we'll drop it off tomorrow. Appreciate you calling." And so hangs up with Rags, calls our butcher, and is like, "Hey, I don't care what you got to do. Grind up steaks, grind up whatever it is. We need burger for tomorrow for this potential customer in Bloomington." So like, all right, we're on it. And so they start grinding it, and then Rags calls back probably about 30 minutes later and is like, "You know what? Don't worry about it. I got some from a different supplier."
Oh.
And my dad was like, obviously disappointed.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, we've already got it being made. Would it be all right if we just came back with a couple boxes tomorrow? Just, you can try them." And so came back up, talked to Rags, and my dad said that's when he thinks it really sunk in that we were like a local farm, doing things. The meat was really coming from 60 miles away, and at that point he switched to buying our burgers and has bought it every week since.
Yeah.
But that was a really big moment for our business too, because their burger business allowed us to cut fresh every week. That volume.
Oh, wow.
Before we were cutting, freezing, and then trying to sell it to all the different places, where that consistent business really helped us kind of sell fresh.
Well, I think a big part, at least from my perspective, is seeing Fischer Farms on the menu. Like everyone that goes into Nick's seeing, oh, Fischer Farms, or like all the places I've gone into, that's how I became familiar with Fischer Farms, was just seeing it on the menu. So it's cool that operationally it helped, but I'm sure that kind of played a part too and helping you guys grow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, we always appreciate it. And we always say if you're buying local, you should tell folks about it, because I think the diner, ultimately does drive purchasing decisions for a restaurant. So I always encourage folks, don't be afraid to ask your restaurant, where you're getting your food from, because restaurant owners want to know that feedback. Do you care about where we're sourcing our food from, where the quality of that food is? And so I think putting it on a menu is a good way to show your eaters where you're getting your food.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I should also shout out Upland. They were obviously a Bloomington staple here that has since grown across the state, but they've been a really good longtime customer of ours too.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, Upland. I feel like that was my first introduction to Fischer Farms.
Yeah.
Upland.
Yeah.
Not just the party bus coming down there, but actually just getting the restaurant. Guys, thank you so much for coming and sharing your stories. Go to considerateburrito.com, ffnatural.com, all the goodness. Cheers, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
What another fun episode, huh, gang? Thanks to Visit Bloomington, as always, for being our presenting sponsors. Thanks to Everywhere Science for this cool sign. Nate and team hooked it up. And thanks to you for watching so we can keep doing this. See you next Tuesday morning with another new episode of the No Dishes Podcast. This episode of the No Dishes Podcast was recorded, edited, and produced by Garrett Portinga of Green Hat Media in beautiful downtown Bloomington, Indiana.
No Dishes Media.
No Dishes Media.